saying our names. Brendan?
Frank. Lockie.
Marty.
Navi.
Mitra.
Jonah.
Paul. Ross.
Lexi.
Josh.
Gus.
Sheila.
Michael.
Tibor. Adrian.
Julia.
Dean.
Jason.
And Bob.
Bob.
And Kat.
And Kat. Have you got that?
Okay. Good to see you all. Know what we're talking about? What they call non-duality, or Advaita in Hinduism. One without a second. Only this. Nothing new. It's been around for ever. And just talking about the ever, the all. Can't teach you anything, and I can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look for what I'm pointing to and see for yourself. Because no matter what you believe, there's nobody who can ever tell you anything or do anything for you. Because what we talk about is one without a second, non-duality. It means there is nothing other than that. That is all there is. It is only the one essence that vibrates, patterns, shapes and forms as everything, and I mean every so-called thing in this manifestation. It's all the one essence, and that's the problem. We believe ourselves as separate entities, individuals, persons, and in that sense of separation comes insecurity, vulnerability, unhappiness, fear, anxiety, stress, all the psychological problems come about because you believe you are separate. Separation is isolation, insecurity, vulnerability. If you realise it is all the one essence, patterning, shaping and forming, then who can ever be superior to you? Absolute. Who can ever be superior to you? Who can be inferior to you? And what would you want from anybody else? Nothing at all. So you see, in the recognition of it and the understanding of it brings you back to the actuality, the reality that you are. And down through the ages there have been so-called people who have recognised this and have passed on the message. And that's how it's been passed on, through the word. And how many words were you born with? When you look at it and see you weren't born with any words. You didn't pick up words till you were about a couple of years old, 2 years, or might be earlier than that, might be later. Different ages, different people, different times. But it wasn't until the word was picked up that the idea of separation came upon. Where did you begin? Well, you say, I was born. Can anyone here actually remember your birth? You believe you were born, but you can't remember your birth. Why not? Because you didn't have any words at birth. You didn't learn words till you were about 2, or somewhere around that age, as I pointed out before. And the parents fussing around us, and that little pattern, shape and form, that little baby had grown, and with the growing up, the capacity of reasoning developed, and it was able to hear and understand words. And we picked up the words. The parents told you little Johnny or little Jane or whatever your name might be, and you say, I am little Johnny. And aren't you saying that today? Somebody asks you who you are, you say, I am so-and-so. They're pointing out, and we've taken the name or the word which is learned to be real, and missed out in our true nature, which is life itself, the very being and livingness, which is the one life, the one intelligence energy that's patterning, shaping, forming, and appearing and expressing as everything. So I'm not going to say I can't tell you anything for. I guess I say I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body-mind entity that you believe yourself to be. I'm speaking to that I am, that I am. That I am is the sense of presence. As Moses or one of them, whoever it was on the mountain, realised, I am that I am. And it's that I am that I am speaking to, just to this, nothing else. So, no use to telling me I'm full of shit or anything, it doesn't really matter. So, I've got you there. Anyway, and it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all that God is a Word. All things were made by Him, by the Word. Isn't that so? Everything you sing and talk about is the Word. You've got a word for. All things were made by the Word. There was nothing made that was made without the Word. And look at that, that's true. And when you look at the Word, you see the Word's not the real. All the words we learn are not the thing. Take the word water. Try and drink the Word. Take the word fire. Try and cook with it. Burn yourself, heat yourself. You can't. So you see, all these words we've got are not the thing, they're not the actual. Just labels, concepts, ideas, images. And how did you begin? You say, I was born, but you can't remember your birth. How could you? If you didn't have any words. Parents say they remember their birth, but talking a lot of crap. Because they couldn't remember their birth, they had no word to say, I was born at the time. And you know that because you didn't have any words until a couple of years old. And then we've learnt all these words and taken the word to be real and lost sight of our true nature. The living essence, the vibrating pattern of intelligence. And how did that come about? We'll go back and look into it. Go back as far as your father and your mother. That animating life essence you call your father, through the food he's eaten and the air he's breathing and all the rest of it, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. But that sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same within your mother. That animating life essence in your mother found another little microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. That egg or ovum attached itself to the wall of the uterus, so it wasn't dead, nothingness, it had it full of life, full of intelligence. And the sperm, knowing what to do, swam to the ovum. And those two coming together, mingling together, that life then formed the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. What were you doing about it then? If you think you're so wonderful, so marvelous as personal entity, you weren't doing anything at all about it. You couldn't. But it's grown you, it's lived you, breathed you, and beat your heart ever since then, and still going. And that, what is you are. Christ could say, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about that sense of presence that animates him, just the same as you could say, if you are looking into it, I am that life. And know that for certain. And life, as they say, is unafraid and free. It is the actuality. Nisargadatta tell you there is only life. That's all there is. There is no body who lives a life. And none of these bodies are living a life. The life itself is shaping, forming and living as these bodies, as these separate. But we take ourselves to be separate. In that sense of separation is isolation and vulnerability. So we relies on the word. And when we get one word, I am so-and-so, it leads into others. I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, or I'm unhappy, or depressed, guilty. Take all these things to be real. And so we are these poor, miserable human beings that are unhappy or overconfident, whichever way it goes, whichever the way the thought goes, all based on the word. and recognising the word is not the thing, where does that leave me? Well, have a look at it. The Satchitananda, they call it in Advaita Hinduism, means existence, consciousness, bliss, nama, rupa, 5 factors. Anyone who's not existing right now, you realise, no, I'm existent, of course I'm existing. Anyone who's unconscious, unaware, and you'll know for certain, no, I'm not unconscious, I am aware. Happy to be? Well, you don't want to be dead, so you're happy to be. So don't you realise from that, recognising that, realising that you are already that, you don't have to seek for anything. We've got this idea you've got to seek to become something. This God, this big higher power, this big daddy, we're not realising that it's one essence that patterns, shapes and forms, experiences and expressing as everything. Everything in this manifestation is contained in space. They call it the basic space of phenomena. And this manifestation is a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomenon is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation is appearance only. It's only seemingly so. It's got no reality or any substance whatsoever that can stand on its own. So that's what needs to be recognised. And so when we've got this idea we're separate, have a look at that. See, that's funny. Something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, we know the things we like and the things we want to do. And this is good, we like it, we don't want it to go. Not realising that everything in this manifestation is transient, constantly changing. This body that you're sitting in now, when you walked into the room it was different. And realise there are thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being replaced. What are you doing about that? Nothing. But we take this body to be some person with some independent nature of itself. And that's where, of course, all this, something that comes up, you like it. We don't not want it to go. Realising no matter how much you try to keep it there, how much you love them, everything's going to change. It's constantly changing. We don't want it to go, so what do? We resist it, trying to keep it there. We don't want it to go. So resistance is conflict. Any resistance you are in conflict. Any conflict you are in makes you unhappy, fearful, anxious, jealous, envy. All your psychological problems come about from this resistance. Something comes up you don't like. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking this. I don't want this one. I've got to get rid of it. What do? We try to push it out. So we're resistant again. Either way, good or bad, we're resisting in both ways. Again, conflict. And that's what our life is made up. All this conflict is continually going on. That's making you fearful, unhappy or anxious, depressed, jealous, envy. All this conceptual thoughts, appearances come up. We put the energy of belief in and load ourselves down with these beliefs. Now look at your dictionary and look up the word belief. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Instead of looking into it and saying, well, we take it, accept it and take it to be as it is. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Put those beliefs to the test and you'll get a definite attitude on life altogether, seeing it as it is. And so, Wei tells you, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. There isn't a personal self. And all the scriptures that you read on, you'll see that there is no personal self. There's only the one self, the Atman self, what they call it, the Atman self. Or if you like to use the term God self, they're just more labels or words we put on the actuality. But you can use them if they don't, but understand what they truly mean. So we're based on these words, which are not the thing. So what is necessary to do? Well, it's necessary to investigate and see for yourself And they tell you that the false cannot stand up to investigation. If you see the false as false, what must you be left with? You must be left with the truth. And that's the scriptural saying also, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And what's there need to be free from? Free from the belief that you are other than that reality. You other, if you like to call it godless, you can. But I don't use that term, because people have got different concepts of what this God is. The Christians, the Muslims, the Hindus, and everyone all got their idea, my God is better than your God. And they fight and go to war with something that is a conceptual image, not religion. The base of it is that one essence, that livingness that you are right now, and always has been. In recognising that and being with that, what as the absolute, as I said before, nothing can be added to absolute, nothing taken away from it. And if that's so, who can be superior to you? Who can be inferior to you? And what would you want from anybody else? So we say here that recognise that, recognise. And the Buddha called it a cognizing emptiness. And he made the statement that emptiness is form. All these forms, that means you, I, and everything else, the trees are empty. They're forms. Because he said the emptiness is form, and the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. You've heard that statement many times. You ever taken any notice to see what it really means? So cognising emptiness, it's the emptiness itself that has the capacity of cognising or knowing. Not that we do it. We've learnt all these words and got these things we think we're capable of, and that's the way it functions also. But if that life essence wasn't in that pattern, could you lift a finger? Couldn't do it. Could you say a word? And they call it the basic space of phenomena. It's the base in which everything appears and disappears and plays around in. Space. Have a look at space. What's the very first thing you see? Most of you will say, oh, I see you, or I see the things in the room. Nobody realises the thing closest to their eyeballs is space itself. We're not noticing it. It's ignored. But realise that there is all this manifestation that's in this room is in the content of space. And the room itself's in the content of space. The things outside are the content of space. Space is no thing. Can you find a beginning to space? Look into it and see if you can say where it begins. You can't find a beginning to it. They say the Big Bang started billions of years ago or whenever it was. But what was that in before the Big Bang could happen? It'd have to be in something. So it's still the content of space. Space has no beginning, no ending, no shape, no form, no boundaries. It is no thing. Not nothing, a vacuum and a void or zero, or nihilism, but no thing means it's got no shape or form. And you and I are everything at the content of that space. If space is no thing, can something come from no thing? It can't. So it's all this space-like awareness that's vibrating, patterning, shaping, forming, and emanating as everything, all the content of space. In the recognition and realisation of that, what is there to be unhappy or fearful about? Things play around, come up as you know, disappear, come again. You came from outer space, the food your father ate and all the rest of it, all content of space. What happens when you die? They'll either put you in a box and bury you, or burn you. And none of this reincarnation stuff. And that thing in the box, and what's burned will be ashes to ashes and dust to dust. What's happened to the dust in the box when it's been there for quite some time? It breaks down even further back into space again. Came out of space to go back into space. No beginning, no ending. And they call it, it's all like a dream. Nisargadatta will tell you, are dreaming a dream you call the world. And he said, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part of the dream and not the other. He says, love all of it, or none of it. Don't discriminate. Take it as it is. And in being that, you're not separating from it or arguing with it. He says, the rest will be done for you. And it is, and don't you realise that what you call the rest is being done for you all the time? What do you do about forming that pattern? You had nothing to do with the pattern you are now. It was formed by the intelligence entity of your father and your mother, which were the intelligence of something else again. It's all happening spontaneously, naturally. There's no person that do anything. And you know that if you look into the word person. Where does that come from? It comes from the ancient Latin, persona, the mask. Well, then we've got a mask or conceptual image in which we're obscuring our true nature. And in the obscuration of our true nature is this psychological suffering. For it's only me can be unhappy, only me can be fearful, only me can be anxious or depressed, jealous or envious. Me is the cause of all this psychological suffering. And they are the effects of the cause. And what is cause and effect? Isn't it so-called karma? Cause and effect. But what would happen if I investigated the cause me and realised and saw it was just a conceptual image? It's not the reality at all. And then if it's just a conceptual image, just to ask myself the question, if I'm not relating to a cause, can there be an effect? Well, if it's not being related to a cause, how can there be an effect? Just as it is. So you can be rid of all your psychological problems just by that, whether it's fear, anxiety, stress, or so many other dramas and traumas they're putting up these days and making bigger, more mental problems. Things will break down, of course they will. Go back into the dust again. But all the fears and anxiety that are happening are not necessary at all. Everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn mind. That's what Bankei, a Zen monk, the Japanese monk in the 16th century called it. He called it the unborn Buddha mind. And he says everything is perfectly resolved in that unborn mind. And he says, why exchange the unborn for thought? And that's what we do. As soon as we exchange it for thought, we put the word on it, and the meaning goes into the word that we've put on it, and we suffer from that meaning. And it's not so. So they're the things we point out to you, and ask you to look into these things and see for yourself, and realise that there is only life. And look into the ancient texts and scriptures as pointed out. In the Ming, one of the things that says, it tells you, the great way is not difficult. They call it the great way in the Taoists, you know. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. Now, heaven and earth. Heaven is what we call the skies, isn't it? And the earth is rolling around there. Can they ever be apart? They can't be. But when the energy of belief goes into them, and the belief's not the actual, then we take it on board and we fear. Many different ways they pointed out in the scripture. And I can't remember a lot of them at the moment. Mine's going to. Anyway, you got the idea of what it's all about, and there's a lot of you in here that understood it and recognise it and can put it in a different way than what I can put it, but knowing the truth about it, you might resonate with it and hear it in a different way. But if you're having problems or haven't understood it, might help clear things up. Don't hesitate to point it out, because that's how you'll pass it on if somebody else hears it. And that's how it's been passed on down for the ages, like the story of Adam and Eve, for instance. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, in paradise, living the natural life without all this conceptualising going on. But what happened? They ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In other words, they learnt words, good and evil. Kicked out of paradise as soon as those words came. Yeah. And it's that sense of presence, that I amness. I think it was Moses or whatever it was, Isaac or one of them, on the mountain looking after the Jewish people, and they were playing up a little bit, but out in the desert somewhere, and he wondering how to handle them, and he came upon this sense came upon him, and he sat in silence for a while. The realisation of the tablets, the commandments. And he says, well, that's why I go back and tell the people this and bring him into line. He says, they're not going to take any notice of me. So what do I have to tell them? And it came to him there and then. Tell him, I am sent you. And he realised on the spot, I am that I am. That I am is not the person. It is the sense of presence. It is the very life of you that translates as a thought. And you are that life. So there it's been. It was there. It's been there all along and passed on. And others get hold of it and corrupt it and contaminate it. And we get the different takes on religion. And people come locked into all these terms and go to war with each other and beat each other up about it. Miss out on the simplicity. There's nothing simpler than one. It's not even one. It is absolute, non-dual. Everything is that. And it's this I am speaking to I am. And settle into it and see, innately you will realise it. There'll be a sense of resonance there, a resonation with it, a feeling that you can call, most of us call, heartfelt. A heartfelt feeling. When we're talking about heart, a lot of us get the mistaken idea that it's a physical heart. They're not talking about that. They're talking about that as heart, the core of your being, or the symbol of the spirit. That spiritual essence. And you know what heart to heart is. Because every one of you at some time or other has a heart to heart with something. And you said to yourself later on, my heart went out to them, as you felt that affinity and love. And that's the other thing, they call this term, they think God. They say God is love. We go looking for something. If God is love, then the love that you feel, the love that's within you, must be that God. God is love, love must be God. We don't notice these things. We take it to be some big daddy up there in the sky that will beat the shit out of you if you don't do the right thing. And you've got to try and become something. You've got to try to realise. Everybody's trying to get liberated or realise God. Don't you realise that becoming is not being? Becoming implies a future time. But you call yourself a human being. And if you believe in this God, you'll call God the supreme being. Take away that label supreme. Take away that label human. Try and separate your beingness now. Try and say, I'm not being. You can say, I'm not being as loud as you like, but what would enable you to say it? Wouldn't it the beingness of self? If that wasn't there, could you say it? You couldn't. So we miss out on it. And that's why they call it ignorance in the scriptures. Not that we're dull or stupid or we think we are, but it just simply means it's there before our very eyes and we ignore it. We look for something further instead of seeing what is with you right now in this presence awareness. You are that, simply and purely. That is all there is. And don't pretend to be what you're not. Oh, I've got a brown mixed in. Don't pretend what to, forget it. Anyway, you got the idea of it. It's up to each and every one of you. Those of you who haven't recognised, got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Nobody's going to pounce on you and say you're an arsehole or something. No. But you are that. Everything is that. That is all there is. Right. Go on, go.
Cats are coming. You can put your ears, Bob.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of good morning messages from people from around Australia and around the world, and a very good morning messages too. And Laura says, really resonates today regarding Adam and Eve. Isn't it amazing? Oh, the cat is going. Isn't it amazing how you can find the truth when you know where to look? And you can find it anywhere, everywhere. And there is one more here from Catherine. Love and gratitude from SA. And great spiel. Thank you, Bob, from JB. And that's that for the online comments. So we invite you now to participate, ask questions, tell us what resonated. Because it really is enough to focus on one pointer. People who actually, initially it always happens, try to kind of grasp it with the thinking, logical mind, and it's pointless. There's no need for that. It's the resonation, like Bob says, that we are looking for. Something that rings the bell, something that we know innately. Because everyone was born into natural state prior to the language. Every little baby knows about their own existence, not about the existence as a thing, but know that they exist. And then later on it gets buried under the thoughts, concepts, images, self-definitions. But it is still there. The space is still there, like Bob was saying about the earth and the sky, heaven and earth. The earth is in the space or in the sky. So that concepts are in the space of presence. So the space of presence is never obscured. One pointer that rings the bell, stay with that, it will take you all the way. Other pointers, if they don't resonate, we can tear them apart, we can argue with them, we can say they're not helpful, or we can say they're wrong. It's just waste of time. It's just really engaging with the mind. So is there anything that you would like to highlight that really resonated?
Hi. For me particularly at the moment, the space has been a big theme because last night I went and had a look at the aurora, and it was just really amazing to see that unfolding and ever changing, and just seeing that it all is in space and it just disappears, and it's like the clouds or anything else, but then behind that is the star field and everything, but there's just little pinpoints of light to us, but it's space. Everything from, like right in front of the eyeball to infinity is just space, and that's just such a, I don't know, it's just actually quite relaxing to just be in space and just see it all unfold and then disappear again and unfold and disappear again. So it was just, it was just really resonates again with that. So it's great.
Beautiful. And being in presence of space, or being in nature, it's kind of that overwhelming amount of vastness kind of make the conceptualization much more difficult. That's what actually made me choose the career that I quit recently, being ship's officer. Just the amount of sky.
It's like why I love being in the desert too. It's the same thing as the... Sorry, I won't. It's just about the desert. Same thing. It's just the vastness.
Thanks for the spiel, Bob. Amazing. Even when you said just a simple phrase, life expressing as these bodies, it can really take you to that place, you know. Like I was down there getting some coffees before, and I saw all the families sort of going around and getting the coffees and all the activity, and I'm seeing that like life is driving all that activity. The life itself is driving all that activity, and it's seen from a deepest place, energetics place, where like it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like if it was up to the me, I wouldn't do fucking anything. Do you know what I mean? I'd sit on a seat and do nothing. But the life is getting you up and moving and driving this and doing that and interacting and but I'll just share one other little thing. I had a struggle recently. There was for about 6 months there. I had real fear around this particular person at work, and I wasn't sleeping, and it was really rough at times. And it's sort of like that got to a bit of a crescendo, and then there was another snap or another collapse. Seeing that what I'm fearing, I am that. It was sort of like I am the same thing that I was fearing. And it collapsed. You know what I mean? That separate, yeah. Like it was, whatever I'm fearing, I am that. It was just a fear appearing, but whether I am the same thing as that. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, and the fear dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all dropped. So yeah. Thanks.
There's a saying, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain.
And also you summarize it beautifully in pointing out there is one essence, expressing, appearing, and experiencing itself as everything. So the fear, the anger, whatever it is that one essence just taking different shape, different form. And that you are. No more comments?
I just watched The Matrix night before last, and I've watched it probably about 4 or 5 times. The only movie where I've gone to the movies and then gone back the next night going, right, there's something here I'm not getting. And then and there was still something I wasn't getting. But even watching it probably for the 5th time, night before last, there was something else that I got. Because, I mean, according to Stanford research, we have 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are repeated. 60% of them are negative. Yeah, we got this bombarding. What occurred to me, that the kind of thing that I got from the Matrix was that all those bullets, it's just like thousands upon thousands of bullets. And eventually Neo gets to the point where he just goes, and they just drop. Yeah, it's just really beautiful. But yeah, those
Bullets
thoughts. Yeah, the bullets of thoughts.
Yeah.
Just
It's a nice metaphor.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Not for me.
I'm shaping, I'm forming. Look how I shape. I really like what you had to say today, Bob.
That's a change.
You said something that really felt like a hammer smacking me today. And that was investigate the me as a concept. You know, that me that we take ourselves to be, investigate it, and you'll see that it is just a concept. It's just a, it's just a sound. It has no substance. And then when you see that, you don't take it so seriously anymore unless you're Dean, and then you do. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Melly.
Beautiful.
I take it seriously.
Yeah, that is actually, Catherine says, Bob has only ever given a great spiel if one is receptive. Yeah, it's not exactly taking it seriously, but really taking it to the heart, not to the mind, not analyzing it, not arguing with it, but finding that receptivity in the heart. It's nothing really to argue. Who is not aware? Who is not present? Did you want to continue?
Yeah,
on?
actually, I had one thought that's been going through my mind, one of those bullets that you were talking about, and it was, I know nothing.
Yeah, I knows nothing.
But then in saying that, there's something that sees that no one knows nothing.
Yeah. Mm.
Nothing is knowing.
Yeah.
I know nothing. Nothing is knowing.
That's right, yeah.
Colonel Clinkworth.
That's one of the bullets. Yeah.
Mm.
That bullet got through.
When you look out in nature, there is there is a knowing. Every creature, every animal, every bird, every insect, every tree, they are acting out in that field of knowing. They know to hunt, they know to mate, they know to tend to themselves. There is a knowing, but there is no imagined self that they believe to have that is knowing, at least according to the neuroscience. They don't hallucinate the self just the way humans do, self existing through the past, present and future. That self is only hallucinated because of the conceptual symbolic language. If there is no language, if there is no thought, there is no past. You can check it right away. Where is the past? Unless it is recalled right in the moment as a thought, a mental image. It doesn't exist apart from the imagination, from the conceptualization. Same with future. So that I that exists through time, through past, present and future, and moves from childhood and grows and then gets old and whatever, that exists only in thinking. So apparently the other creatures than humans, they don't have that affliction. So certain experiences are not available for life through the eyes of dog or cat. And from the life's perspective, that's perfect. And it's also perfect to have the human experience in which every thought can open the new universe. Even the thought that is completely unrelated and irrelevant to what is happening right now. From the experiencing perspective, it all makes sense, it is all beautiful. But it causes suffering. And investigating that and seeing how that suffering comes through the belief in something that's not happening, through the belief in a story that we make about what is not happening presently. The liberation from suffering is possible. There is no one who gets liberated, because that I that is hallucinated through time cannot get liberated, because it doesn't exist. So the liberation is like liberating, like experiencing, seeing. There is no one who does the seeing. There's no little thing inside the head that looks through the eyes and I am seeing. There's no I there, but seeing is happening. And within that seeing happening, there is labeling also going on. This is the world and this is I. So there is the thinking going on that divides the one field of seeing into whatever is seen, that's one label, and whoever is seeing, the second label. But it's one field of seeing. So in the singularity of direct experiencing, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, there is the duality of overlay of the imaginary division between the me and the other. And seeing how it comes about, it's not only, it's an incredible, incredible revelation to actually see how the world comes into existence, the multiverse comes into existence, with every thought being believed by the same life essence. But it's also liberating, because once you see the trick of a magician, you don't get fooled again. You can just see it and admire it and enjoy it. From the point of freedom, like, wow, my goodness. And we have the comment from Michelle. may I please have a pointer from Sailor Bob that will reveal more clarity of what he is sharing. Ooh, that wasn't clear what he was sharing. We need to bring more clarity. I know he already spoke so much, and thank you, but just a word or a few words I can reflect on. I feel like I need to make contact and ask for this directly. Sorry if it seems silly, but I will cherish it. Thank you. And Michelle, feel free to send us an email and you can have direct conversation one-to-one with Bob. You can also join us on Zoom. But right now, see what comes up. What comes up? One pointer that Michelle will cherish, that you didn't bring in a spiel, something different.
Well, time, space.
Yeah?
Space is no thing, has no beginning, no end. And time is no thing also. Time's just a mental concept also. Is there a past if you don't think about it? You'll say I was in the past, but try and go back and live a minute ago or yesterday. You can recall it, but you can never go back. What about the future? You can imagine and anticipate the future, but you can't live in the future. That anticipation, imagination, all going on right now. So what's right now? The presence. When does now begin? It doesn't. It's always now. When does it end? It doesn't. It's still always now. So time, space are one and the same life or beingness. And that's pure being, not a human being or being this or being that, or not wasing. It's just as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. No preference, no partiality, no comparison. Just this, nothing else, as I say. And you and I and everything else is already and ever that. Know the truth will set you free.
Beautiful, thank you. And I hope that will be something to cherish. And Laura says, it's just such a wonderful message to let the I off the hook, even though there is no hook. And even though there is no I, happy birthday. Laura, his birthday, she was sitting with us here in the meeting. I hope you guys remember. And Michelle says, thank you. Anyone?
Thank you.
So, we literally are not the body. And I feel like people's suffering comes from the belief that we are exclusively the body. And we share the destiny of the body, which means we die. And I feel like that's where everybody's fear comes from, as well as the feeling that if I am the body, then I am separate from the universe. So that's literally what's happening.
Yeah.
Need to investigate and have a look and see if it's so. Most people don't. They take it for granted. I am this body. I am this mind. But what's the body made up of? You say my body, my mind. You say my house, my car, my coat. Are you the coat? Are you the car? Are you the house? You're not. Maybe you're not the body either. And when you investigate the body, what's the body made up of? It's made up of elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. Take the air out of your body, won't be there. Take the fire, body temperature, won't be there. Take the water, get out of space. So you're not any of those elements, and all those elements can be broken down into subatomic particles, which can be broken down into pure energy. So all the body is nothing but a vibrating pattern of energy. Look at the mind. You say the same thing with my mind. Show me a thing called mind. I can't show you everything called mind. What's mind? It's word. What's word? Sound. What's sound? A vibration. What's a vibration? A movement of energy. And that's what Einstein told you, wasn't it? All that is only energy. And it's so. Energy, in that energy, everything, all emanations form. Now the body is just a vibrating pattern of energy that if in its absoluteness it couldn't express as anything. So it needs, for itself, it vibrates in different patterns, shapes and forms to express and experience through. But it's never been anything other than the totality, the pure being, pure awareness. And the natural, so as you say, the natural suffering will be there because of the belief in the body. Thought, feeling and emotion. First of all there's the thought. Then the thought keeps there for a while, becomes a sensation. And that sensation will go into a feeling, which we put the word or the label on it. And then we suffer accordingly because of that. It's all energy.
So this habit, because I feel like it becomes a habit to believe that we are a separate body.
It is.
And, for example, I am realizing that it's not the case, but there's still a lot of conditioning, emotional and mental, that's sort of disappears after
And
a
what
while.
conditioning is there if you don't think about it? Can't say it's good, bad, or without a thought. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? You can't say there's anything at all, but you haven't disappeared. You haven't stopped breathing, heart hasn't stopped beating, food hasn't stopped being digesting. The functioning is going on. But who to, or what to? A concept or a thought? And it's the nature of everything to vibrate into pattern, shapes and forms, seemingly appear and disappear. But how much of it is real? When you investigate outside, go down to the ocean. If I said to you, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea, what would you say? Don't be an idiot, because you know the ocean's not blue. It appears to be. The sky, with no clouds in the sky, it sees a blue canopy over it. Sky is space. Space is in this room, the same space as out there. Where's the blueness? When you investigate these things, a rainbow is another one they use. It's got the cloudy, the misty day, there seems to be all these colours in the sky. It's just the sun reflecting through the clouds that form the colours. Cat's got glass, film on over the windows there, and when the sun shines around the rest of it, there'll be a beautiful pattern of colour on that floor. Where is it? When was it ever there? We take all these things to be real when you investigate and see the truth about it, know the truth, as they tell you, the truth will set you free. And nobody can do it for you. You've got to recognise and do these things for yourself. And that's our problem. We've believed in so many other things touching us, got to do this and got to do that. And otherwise you're a sinner, you're a terrible person. Put all that crap on it and make it worse. But have a look at it yourself, see for yourself.
Thanks.
You might see it entirely different to what I said, but and as others said, but you'll know the truth for certain if you investigate it.
We have a comment from Gilbert. Oh, Patricia first. She says, you taught me how to... Oh, thank you. So refreshing for the soul. You taught me how to properly live. And Gilbert, the thought that there is a lot of conditioning is only a thought. Go into that thought and see it just as pattern floating in space. And seeing thoughts as pattern is just exquisite. Suddenly the life becomes so much more colorful. It's less pain, less suffering, and it's more amazement, naturally. more beauty.
I was going to read a passage from Gilbert's book. His book is called Self-Aware, and this part of the book stuck with me. Says, the essence that you truly are is free right here in this direct or immediate actuality. This is all there is. What is the doubt in this? In this direct view, there is an open view from empty mind. This is so, whether you believe it or not. Even if there is a lot of activity going on in the mind, the clarity is there. And what's more, it is obvious, so obvious that you miss it. You miss it because of a habitual need of a concept to hang on to. It is not a concept. It is non-conceptual awareness which knows all concepts. This knowing presence is your true nature. I just like that passage. I just like how it says, don't hang on to a concept, you know, and then you're kind of free falling a little bit, and it's just...
Yeah, open view, empty minds just jumped out really big time.
Give us a story, Ross.
I was reading Kat's book on Sailor Bob the other day, and I've always been curious about this. You have an experience of this veil of ignorance dropping away in some way, but there's always an identity left that thinks, well, this is wonderful, it's amazing, marvellous. And there's a curiosity about this character that's still left. And in Kat's book, she's explaining this, just paraphrasing this veil of ignorance dropping away in the moment. And she says, the I, in inverted commas, says, wow, you know, this is amazing. And she adds, but this is not I. This is a consciousness. And with that, it was a aha moment. That's what it is. It's not a personal self-centre that's commenting. It's just consciousness arising. So that made all the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't follow everything, because when you mentioned about the weight dropping, I just thought about something, because it also has happened temporarily to me, like the weight drop. I didn't see who I am, but I was kind of in the flow of life, you know, like deep okayness, deep contentment, you know, that kind of thing. And I was thinking, so it feels like when the veil is there, it's like I'm in a trance, like I'm gone with every thought. Like it's not like I can actually. Sometimes I try to even watch the thoughts coming up, popping up. I can clearly see I'm not generating them; they just come up. But somehow I get dissolved in them. Like it's like when I remember I've been thinking, it's like coming out of a trance, almost like being entranced by the thoughts. And it's so thick, that I can't just be, right? And somehow, I don't know, all this happened just then, was thinking that it's, if I stay with my senses fully, just with my senses as much as I can, when the thoughts are not there, maybe then the consciousness kind of wakes up to itself, something like that. Because what is that veil, that trance? It just, you know what I mean? I can't put my question very together, but somehow I feel like the consciousness is asleep to itself in me. Kind of is, consciousness is in trance.
See, there is an idea that consciousness is some sort of a thing, like a higher self. There is no such thing. Consciousness is the power that is beating your heart. It's filtered, the intelligence energy filtered through the body appears as seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. It's not asleep. It's just obscured by one piece of software which relates everything to the me and narrates that those are my thoughts, this is happening to me, I shouldn't have those thoughts. It's just one piece of software. You are one thought away from realizing that there is no self. And who is to realize there is no self? There is no one to realize, like Ross was saying. Once the veil of I, of the fake identification drops, there is just clear knowing, but there is no I that knows. It's not, oh, I get it now. No, there is no one who can say, I get it. Because that I is precisely that piece of the narrative software. That piece of like subtitle writing, automatic subtitles in Google, or like your, Siri or whatever that is answering your questions. It's a piece of program. It's something that we've learned by imitation. It's not who you are. It's automatic, it's autopilot. It arises as automatically as sweat when it's hot, or digestive juices when the stomach is full. It's a piece of narration when you recognize that this one is not who you are. Because somehow, somewhere along the way, the identification got habituated.
Yeah.
I am the voice in my head. This is who I am, this is me. And now that I, what is the I? If you ask 2 or 3-year-old, it doesn't have much to say. But if you ask 30 or 40-year-old, oh, that would be a big, big, big story. Who I am, what happened to me, what's my values, what's my priorities, what's my preferences, all of that will come up to that image with which you identify. It is, I like what you say, it's like a trance. Bob sometimes uses the metaphor of hypnosis.
Yes,
Self-hypnosis.
exactly.
But nobody does it, You're not guilty of doing it to yourself or doing something wrong.
No.
Because it's a piece of conditioning, piece of automatic, learned by imitation from your parents, your school, your society, where everybody operates in that mode. In neuroscience, it is called default mode. The mode in which everything is narrated and related to the I, which is being hallucinated as something, as entity living through time. But once you can't find that entity, and you witness that software, you witness that conditioning, that narrative going on, what's witnessing it? Is that another I being kind of projected, that this is now I hearing the I that is speaking? Or is it just a field of open field of consciousness, a field of knowing, in which all those things are arising simultaneously? The image of I speaking, the image of I listening, all those things are arising. And the more you relax, and from that relaxed natural state, you witness whatever is arising, the more you are neutral towards it, the less you are drawn to believe that, to completely just scatter all the energy or send it into a belief into that. The more space around that whatever arises.
And it may be, narrative, it may be a feeling, it may be a sensation.
I get what you say, and there is the recognition in the moment. Like right now, I'm recognizing there is no solid thing inside me, and it feels like emptiness is looking. So there is this momentary recognition, but it doesn't, and I do that as much as I can remember during the day. But it's not enough to come out of that trance.
It's not
I've
up to
been
you.
doing, huh?
It is not up to you. See, even the question, am I doing enough? It brings the idea that, oh, is it enough? I'm seeing it in the moment, but is it enough? Now, there is the subtle idea that there is an I that is seeing, and what else I can do? Is it enough? What else can I do?
That's
the
what I'm
I
wondering.
has to stop doing. The I is a fiction. What can imaginary ghosts do? Nothing. It only takes credit for whatever life is doing. Life is doing the seeing, and I says, no, this is I'm seeing. Life is doing the thinking, and I says, no, this is I am thinking. Life's doing investigation, and I says, no, I'm investigating. Am I investigating enough? I would like to investigate more. There's no one there. There's no one there who has any will to do anything at all. The inspiration, when Bob is throwing the pointers around, he's calling for the resonation so that life responds, not the mind taking credit, not the I. That's why listening to the message with the intellect, with logic, is completely counterproductive. It prolongs the search. It makes you try harder. You are not the doer, and you're doing harder, you're trying harder. How can it get you anywhere? It's the non-doing, it's the relaxation, in which, in Course in Miracles, they say, God comes to a quiet mind. And of course, God is the creative source or the power of life or whatever you want to call it. But the mind is a veil. That piece of software which narrates and relates to the imagined self, that's precisely the veil. So when this one is out of the way, like Bob sometimes says, when there is no clouds on the sky, there is more clarity. But it doesn't mean that there is a prerequisite to get rid of all the clouds. Now I will try to blow all the clouds away. That's impossible. I is the cloud. But relaxing out of the clouds, clouds are on, let's say, if you look, like Bob brought up the metaphor of the heaven and earth. The earth is, let's say, is that ball rolling around in the space of sky. But where is it? Where are the clouds on that sky, in that infinite vastness of space? They're just tiny, minute, 20, 30 kilometers from the surface of Earth. No more. That's it. Only where the atmosphere is. So you relax out of that clouds of thinking, and you end up in the infinite vastness of space itself. Non-doing takes you there. Natural state is the relaxed natural state. And when the doing is required, it will happen. But not necessarily there will be an I coming and say, I've done it. And if that thought will come, well, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody even listens.
Thank you. Thank you.
It sort of comes like, I love that the self hypnosis, like the self is hypnosis, is the self hypnotizing for the self for other selves, but what's behind it is that empty space. And I had this sensation of, like, when I drive down from Dalesford to Melbourne, you come down Pendleton Hills, which is, you know, like high up, and you see Melbourne City. It's just this like little, tiny little buildings, you know, off way into the distance in all this vast space and rolling fields, and the Yuyangs is over there. You can see Port Phillip Bay, and like I'm only seeing like a small fraction of everything, but it just seems like that city. But then when you get to the city, it's like getting to the mind. It's like it's all enclosed, and it's all above you, and it feels so big and so like oppressive and everything. But it's this tiny, tiny, tiny thing in all of this. Like the mind's nothing. It's like it's just. Yet when you're in it and you dive into it, all you got to do is look up. If you look up, even though all the buildings are around you and everything, you see the sky and space. So, and it's just like, it's just, I'm seeing more illusion of everything, I guess. There's ways to look through it all the time. It's just, you know, just shift a little bit, and then you're not looking at a building right in front of you, you're seeing space. It's like, so there's always a way back to that, always, somehow. I don't know, I'm just
you see it.
Yeah, there's a way back all the time into that somehow.
That's the clear seeing. That's a beautiful metaphor too, because it's very relatable.
Yeah.
Like being out in the nature and coming back to the concrete jungle and seeing how, I like the word you use, the oppressive. It's
the mind, basically, Even
though it's still nature, it's just nature transformed through the human hands and all that.
It's a more constructed nature.
Yeah,
just
it
because
is,
like it's parallel lines, and you know, it's more rigid. Like nature's like flowy and organic, but we tend to be very rigid, and that's a metaphor for the mind tends to be very rigid as well. So if you can somehow see past those things, then it still comes back to that. It's like that. I remember even when I was very young, it was always that whatever, like this, there's this, the seeing that comes out of the eyes has never changed.
Yes.
Like when I was, you know, and I know, for me, it's always been a visual thing, that I've always been in the visual arts and everything like that. But it's funny, the more I see it, it's like I'm not taking any photographs. Like the eye of that, like that claims credit for anything, and that's quite funny because it's often when I'm, you know, working in the field, like you know, everyone wants credit for it. Like this is my photo. This is like, you know, like at the end of a movie, there's a whole credit list. And yes, people contributed, absolutely, but where did all that creativity come from? Where did the inspiration? Because there's like apparently billions of people all coming up with ideas and creating things, and it doesn't come out of the individual. It comes through the individual, but it's not this little eye in here that's like coming up with all this stuff or seeing or doing. It's so it's been quite
quite amazing. It's when the eye gets out of the way, then that it's like Bob sometimes quotes Einstein. He was struggling and wrestling with a problem, and he's given up. He went to sleep. He woke up with the solution. The struggle, the eye, the everything get out of the way. Many artists also confess, and you said it last night, that the more you see, the less you do. I mean, the more pictures you take, the less of them are yours. It's like life is guiding. And I also like the metaphor of, you know, that further away from that essence, the more kind of transformation, the more refinement through the, you know, like hands of humans. You know, the trees are growing organically, and then people use the trees to create something else, and from that something else, yet something else, and kinds of goes on forever. And it's magnificent. It's incredible how life does it. But yes, it kind of feels like it gets less and less life. Every transformation, it's not. It's all life. All atoms are alive. This is all consciousness. But yes, when you get at the end of that chain of the chemical reactions out there, it's just much less life than in that tree that was used for it, or it seems this way.
Yeah, sorry.
I pointed out in that Hensing Minion, the more you talk and think about it, the further away you wander from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there's nothing you'll not be able to know.
Yeah, that came to me too with things like, you know, they say writer's block or artist block or something like that. That's really often that you're trying too hard. I've noticed when I need to get a project done and I'm really giving myself a hard time for not doing it, and then the mind gets engaged, and it's just like I then tend to avoid it more. But if I just walk away from it and then come back and start doing as opposed to anything else, like it often just starts off really small and then something takes over, but it's not, and that something is not me, and then there's a flow to it at that point.
Yeah, I was just sitting here looking at that clock, and I don't know if you can see it over there, but there's like these little cogs that turn, and then the bullet came up was like, who's turning the cogs, and who's turning those cogs? Well, it's not us, you know. And then, you know, who's turning these cogs? Who's turning this cog right now? No, it's not. It's not me turning this cog either. And then, you know, Bob was talking about is there effect without a cause? You know, if you don't relate this thought to another thought and create this relationship that creates this effect of there being a me, then where is the thought? You know, who's speaking the thought? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from? That's right.
Incognito.
That's right.
Or cognizing emptiness.
Yeah. But the best thing about that actually segues perfectly, because you don't have to believe that. You know, you can actually just investigate for yourself and actually experience it. I think that's why, you know, this, you know, can't be debated in the mind. Is that it's just you just see it beyond an idea or concept. You know, it's an experience. So, yeah. Anyway.
I have a couple of comments here from Valeria, which are our friends, a couple. It is not me understanding consciousness, it is just me getting out of the way. Absolutely. And Gilbert, if the screen in a cinema drops, the movie disappears. Everyone in the cinema gets a shock. The unexpected is always present. Consciousness does not disappear if the mind empties itself. And Vivek says, I is just recognition of self, existence, ever-presence. And Jyoti says, thank you. You want to add something?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, and for those who didn't hear it, because Ross cracked the beauty with the incognito when Marty was talking about the cogs. But yeah, if the cogs do stop, it is cognizing emptiness. And then the other thing is with hypnosis, like, hypnosis is constant repetition, like, and it is really very much like, I notice that with myself, the thoughts that come and come and come and come and go, and it's like a presupposition as well. You believe these thoughts, like they're there's a presupposition to it. It's like, oh, what's wrong now? Well, what's right now? Why am I thinking what's wrong now? So there's a presupposition, which is part of hypnosis as well. And then the thoughts just come and come and come and come. And that's, so it's incredible. Yeah, we are. Like, that's the trap. The trap is of just a form of self-hypnosis. And it seems to just randomly fire, because we don't know where it's coming from. But we don't have to believe it either. And it is like the bullets. We can just say, like Bob says, you know, just full stop. And they can just fall from the sky.
And if you really watch the mind, it's always trying to grasp stuff, and it's always wrong. It's always trying to sort of latch onto what might happen or what won't happen or what's going to be the outcome, and it's constantly trying to get a handle on something that it can't actually grasp. Because then, back to Tibor's point, like sometimes there's that I thought, oh, I'm not doing this, not doing that, like the imagined me freaking out, and then like the more I go in this, either that thing happens or it doesn't happen, sort of thing. But it's never able to accurately predict what will happen, sort of thing. Like the unexpected always happens, and the expected rarely happens. So it's totally, it's from another, it's in another operator, it's in another realm altogether. That isn't based in a, like, the depth of the reality. So it's just all like this little satellite going around trying to grab onto stuff, but it's always fucking wrong, like every time. Yeah, I've noticed lately.
Yeah, Bob sometimes quotes Mark Twain saying, well, I don't know if I quoted correctly, that I've died 1,000 deaths of imaginary fears, of which 99% never happened. We are imagining the dark scenarios, and we're dying 1,000 times, and those things never come true.
Yeah, because it was ripping into itself, going, you're not achieving this, not doing this, and then just woke up one day, and then it just happened. The thing that was beating itself up for not doing, and it just happened. But it spent months trying to run that story.
Yes.
It's it's crazy.
And you can see also, in a way, you know, I kind of look at the legal system. You look at the legal system, and it is meant to serve the society. It is meant to bring justice. And in the principle that it is what it is for. So there is an intention there, which is positive. At the same time, I hardly ever seen that justice working for the individual. It just doesn't, because if you have more money and better lawyers, you will find the loopholes and you will drive on it, and you will squeeze the poor out of anything. So the mind, similarly, it kind of, the principle behind it is to serve. It is a piece of software that serves the survival, and it is conditioned through, you know, like the genetic algorithms, through the repetition. You know, like since childhood, everything happens, you know, if smiling works more, then you're going to smile. If crying works more, then you're going to cry first. And it gets conditioned to serve. But ultimately, in the individual situation, well, collectively it may achieve you. We are all here somehow. But in the individual situation, trusting that tool is like, it's just, a little bit far-fetched. To see the principle behind it, you see the intelligence, you see the greatness, you see the beauty of that energy in work. You don't have to see the mind to be a stupid enemy that is trying to destroy you and is giving you all that nasty thoughts so you get suicidal. No, the principle behind is beautiful. It's just that it is not tailor-made for individual situation. It constantly upgrades and updates itself. And some of the traumatic situations update it in the wrong way because it's a software. It's not, you know, that it is made of intelligence, but it's so far from that standing tree and so close to that concrete jungle that intelligence is filtered through 10,000 things. But it's this important to see the mind as not the enemy, and to see the intent behind it works. And then you can even easier not thank you and not take it too seriously.
Thank you. I just wanted to say in regards of the unexpected always happens, the expected never does. The expected actually happens all the time. It's just not a thing that we think about because it's expected. When you take a step and you land how you were planning on landing in that step, that's expected. When you brush your teeth, the movement that you do is expected. All those little things that we do without thinking, without conceptualizing, without trying to plan, by just being, because whatever it is that is walking is just walking, like it, and it is, well, maybe not, but I think it is a part of the function of the mind of, okay, I see around, I understand the space around me, and I just walk. But we don't add this to our meaning of self. So it's separate from that concept of me or what I'm supposed to be, because if I'm supposed to be this, then this is supposed to happen, and then all that hypnotism happens. But if there's no meaning, and it's just is, it's the whatever is in front of you, it's literally the next step in front of you, then the expected happens or doesn't happen. Maybe you trip, but you don't think about it, so
there's no suffering.
There's no suffering. You just shift your how you stand. I don't know.
That's how nature lives.
Yeah, so saying like the unexpected always happens, that's just another thought of the mind trying to control its own perception of life, in a way.
It is. You're right. It deserves disclaimer. Unexpected always happens, but the disclaimer is in regards to the narrative mind, not in regards to the functioning mind.
That statement, unexpected always happens, the anticipated and imagined very rarely, if ever.
And it beautifully clears the disclaimer, because it brings back the anticipation and imagination, which is the narrative. Nisargadatta is pretty mathematically precise in his pointing, and so is Bob. That's the beauty of it, to actually use the metaphors the same way you use the equation. It is really a clear-cut, precise pointing. It is not about engaging creative thinking and finding solutions in imagination. It is very, very down-to-earth, precise description. It's not instruction, because it can't be instructed. There is no one to follow instructions. But it's a description, and if it rings the bell, that's it. You arrive at, or you arrive, you don't. You find yourself already present in that open field of certainty of existence. And like Mitra was saying, I didn't see what I am, but I did not see that I am not. But I've seen that I am. When you see that you are, not what you are, but that you are, that's home. Not what you are. To see what you are, you have to kind of be outside yourself, judging and analyzing, and then obviously that's not you anymore. You're the one watching, not the one that is watched. You cannot objectify yourself. But that you are, you can't deny. And that's it. That you are. Or you are that you are. That's that. And that's that for online. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks.